right, so in this video, we're going to look at our term paper together. I'm looking at a page now that it's a little different because it's my view, because I'm doing this at a time when it's not available for student view yet. But this is on the main course materials page, and so by the time you're watching this video, you'll be able to see that also on your left-hand toolbar. And we'll look at the term paper instructions here together. So the term paper, the purpose of the term paper is to get you to delve deeply into, first, one specific diagnosis, and also to make sure that by the end of our course, you can assemble a body of knowledge from peer-reviewed literature so that you can create a focused study of something, and that will be helpful to you even outside of psychology eventually. And then obviously there's also a writing element where I want to make sure by the end of this course you can write clearly and with expertise within psychology. So the first thing you're going to need to do for your term paper is choose one diagnosis. And so each of our chapters focuses on diagnostic categories, and you can see those that were listed in the syllabus. But within each of those categories are specific diagnoses. So for example, for the term paper, you might be interested in anxiety disorders, but then you need to look within that category to consider a specific diagnosis related to anxiety that you might be interested in. So social anxiety or panic disorder or generalized anxiety disorder, etc. Right? So you're going to choose one specific disorder. You will have an opportunity in a few weeks to submit what you want to focus on to me. You can do that whenever you want, but you'll have to within the next few weeks, so that I can say either yes, that's perfect, or no, that's a category. You need to choose one of the specific disorders within that category, or whatever feedback I give you that might be helpful. So you're going to choose a disorder that you're going to focus on, and I think it's helpful in writing this. Students almost always are writing to their professors, like their audience is their professor. So you're almost always writing your papers to an expert audience, to somebody who certainly knows more about this topic than you likely do. And I think that's problematic because it pulls for students to not speak with an authoritative voice, to not kind of assume expertise from their research, and that they're always kind of offering information to somebody that they know probably already has the information. So while you're writing this paper, you don't need to do anything specific with this, except I want you to imagine while you're writing this paper that you're writing that you're writing it for a hypothetical family who needs research-based information about a disorder that someone in their family has been diagnosed with. So you don't need to tell me about the family. You don't need to make up a case study about the family. But when you're writing, I don't want you to imagine that I'm your audience. I want you to imagine that there is a less informed audience that is reading this, so that you are the expert and you are offering expert information to them. So I do want you to kind of have that as your premise. And then you're going to do academic research focused on a specific set of questions. You're going to need 8 peer-reviewed articles, at least 8 peer-reviewed articles for this. If you haven't used most of you should have found and kind of interacted with peer-reviewed articles in Psych 111, but if for some reason you didn't and you need extra help thinking about peer-reviewed articles, you certainly can ask me about that. I also, the librarians are very familiar with this type of assignment and my assignment specifically, and you also can chat online or have a virtual appointment or have an in-person appointment with a librarian who can be very helpful with all of this. So you're going to need to find 8 peer-reviewed articles, all published within the last 5 years. So this is going to be recent research because our information about psychopathology changes pretty rapidly sometimes. And so you might find an article from 15 years ago that gives treatment suggestions that are not relevant anymore or not considered the best approaches to treatment anymore. So you are going to want to, you're required to find things published in the last 5 years. Because 2022 is just starting, we'll date that from 2021. So anything 2016 or later is fine. And you're going to answer the following questions. There's 3 main questions, 3 main sections of your paper that you're going to have. The first section is going to think about what the research told you or tells you about the likely cause or causes of the disorder. And so that for almost all of you, that's going to include some discussion of biological causes and also some discussion of environmental causes. You're also going to talk in a second section about what does the research tell you about best treatment options. Again, some of those will be biological and some of those will be non-biological treatments. And then you're going to think about the prognosis for the individual. What is the outcome likely to be? How likely are they to recover with treatment? What does the rest of life look like for them? Does it look like recovery and moving on? Does it look like episodic experiences of the disorder, etc.? And also, what is the family's experience? For the people living around the person, what is their experience likely to be? The fourth section of the paper moves away from the peer-reviewed research, or at least adds on to the peer-reviewed research, and asks you to look for 4 websites. A Google search is fine. You can use any 4 websites that come back on that first page of a Google search. It's fine. Essentially, with that, I'm asking you to replicate what a typical family would learn, right? Typically, if families have somebody diagnosed with major depression, they're going to Google major depression. And they're going to read whatever comes up typically on that first page of returns. And so I'm asking you to replicate that a little bit, and then to look at those websites and think about the peer-reviewed research that you read and compare what you found in the academic research, the peer-reviewed research, to the sources that you found on these websites. And so do the websites do a good job of representing the scientific literature? Are there myths or false information? Is there missing information? And if a hypothetical family was looking into info only using a Google search, how accurate, how well informed would they be in the end? And so you're going to break up your paper into those 4 sections, as I just described. Typically, these papers are about 5 to 8 pages in length, not excluding your cover page and excluding your works cited pages. So, 5 to 8 pages of writing. You need to use APA section headings to differentiate these 4 sections. You're welcome to use subheadings within those sections, but you don't need to. But you do need to provide an APA-style cover sheet, running heads, section headings, a works cited page, APA-style in-text citations. I'm happy to provide additional help with that if this is the first time that you're grappling with some of this. And there'll be plenty of time to have those discussions as we go through. The final paper is due on May 1st, but your works cited page is due on March 26th. Which means that by the end of March, by the 3rd week in March, you need to have all of your sources assembled and be able to put them into APA format so that I can say, yep, these all look good, or you're missing sources, or this one's too old, or whatever feedback I'm giving to you, or you've got something wrong about APA style. You'll get that feedback then. And then you have to submit an outline of your paper by April 17th. And again, that's to make sure, for me to make sure, and for you to make sure that you have all of the pieces of the paper that you need. I don't have a required format for the outline. You can use whatever format will be most useful to you in eventually writing your paper. But I should be able to see, when I look at your outline, I should be able to see that you have researched and have information to provide about each of those 4 in each of those 4 sections, and for specific subsections within those. So it's not enough to just say I'm going to talk about explanation of causes and treatment recommendations. You need to say I'm going to talk about explanation of causes, and I have information on this cause and this cause and this cause that I'll be talking about. I don't need it, but I think it could be really useful when you're writing your paper, for you to include references so that you know, like, oh, and I'm going to use this article here. That's not for me, that's for you, so that when you go to write, you know where you're looking for your information. You can see the rubric here is broken down very specifically into where the points are coming from for the total of 200 points, and then those 25 points each for the foundational elements. So take a look at this, ask me questions as you have them, and we'll go from there.